Hi BookTube, Tim at Renerdified Reads, and welcome back to my library. Thought I'd come on and share with you what I read in the month of September. My Sci-Fi September wrap-up. Didn't get to everything on my TBR, but I got to more than what I was anticipating, especially based on some of the length of the books. So I've got an audience of one cat today, and let's jump right into it. These first two books I have already talked about a little bit, so I'm not going to really talk too much about them on this video. But the first one, Cage of Souls by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I can't stop raving about this cover. I have it front-facing on my shelves. It's this book. I don't think it's my favorite Tchaikovsky, but it's still a really good book, still a really good read, worth it. It's still relatively new. It came out in 2019, I believe, and pick it up. It's worth it. The last book I read in September was The Ice Ghost by Kathleen O'Neill Geer. This is the sequel / book 2, and a follow-up to The Ice Lion, following the same characters, still following Quiller and Lynx, and the characters in the series are so good. They're so well written. They're definitely character-based books. Still short, about 300 pages. I want to say they're less than 300 pages. They're definitely worth picking up and reading. The next book I read in September was We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. This book's really, really good. It's probably up there amongst my favorites that I read in the month. Follow the main character, Bob Johansson, as he gets killed crossing the street. It's not a spoiler, I promise. Happens in one of the first chapters. And he gets uploaded as an AI, and you follow his journey 100 years in the future. Is where we pick up and go around, and it's all about finding new planets to terraform. There's conflict back at home on Earth, and it's just really, really fun. I will say it is a part 1. It feels a lot like a part 1. I think that's been a big criticism for this book by a lot of people. I have books 2 and 3, and I should order book 4. I'm planning on reading the rest of the series later this year, and I think it's worth picking up, but go into it knowing it's a part 1, that it's not a complete story, and it's not a complete book 1 per se. You kind of want to go on and read the entire series after it. Next book I read was Breaking Day by Adam Oyebanji. I think that's how you say his last name. In this, we follow a young mechanic from, I guess, a nothing family on a generation ship trying to find a new home on its way to a new star, and he sees a ghost girl outside the ship in outer space, and we follow the journey of who she is and the journey to the new planet and destination. The characters in these are relatively good. The plot's a little lacking in spots. Ravi, the main character, he shows his age a little bit. His cousin's best character in this book, in all honesty. His cousin's phenomenal, really well written. All in all, it's kind of an okay read. If you read a lot of sci-fi, I think you'll know kind of where this is going towards the end and who Ghost Girl is. It's still worth a read, I think. It's about a 3.5 star for me. Worth picking up, but definitely not as good as I was hoping it would be. Next book I read in September, I'll be honest, probably is the biggest disappointment of the month, and that was Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds. This is a big book, very thick. It's over 500 pages. It's supposed to be a space opera, and it is a space opera, but I'll be honest, I had high hopes for this, and I think part of why it was so disappointing was because it didn't live up to those high hopes. Dan Sylvestre, the main character, is really well written. It's a really well written book, but it feels dragged out in certain places, and I feel like we could have gotten to the conclusion a bit sooner than we did. overall, still not a bad read. It's worth reading. I'll try and pick up the sequel and the rest of the trilogy, the first trilogy in this universe later this year, probably early next year, more likely. Just 'cause I have so many books on my TBR, and ultimately probably a 3-star read for me. It's definitely not less than a 3-star read. I don't think it's higher than a 3.5. It's definitely in between a 3 and a 3.5. The last book I read in September was right at the end. It took me maybe 2 days to read, maybe 3, is The Paradox Hotel by Rob Hart. And there was points in this book I remember thinking that I wanted to give it a 4-star. Spoiler alert, I did not give it a 4-star. But it's really, it's worth a read. All these books this month were worth a read. And I don't regret reading any of them. This one, it takes place at a hotel, the Paradox Hotel, next to a time port. And time travel is involved, and it's very finicky. Time travel as a concept. There's a lot that could go wrong. There's a lot that could go right. And I do have to say that January Cole, the main character in this book, is a bad bitch, and it's wonderful. She's my favorite character I think I've read in a couple months. And I think her character is worth reading this just by herself. Read this book just to experience January Cole. She's written very phenomenal. The rest of the characters written very, very great. But overall, it's a bit predictable. I saw the conclusion and the result of the mystery in this about a third of the way through the book. And that, I think, is what's really dragging it down. As a sci-fi book, this is definitely a 4-star. As a mystery book, this is probably a 2-star. Put them together, and it get probably what I would rate it as, the 3.5. It's definitely not too much lower or too much higher. It's definitely in the 3.4, 3.6 range. But all in all, read this just for January Cole. She is by far my favorite character I've read in a few months. So that's all I read in September. Total of 6 books. I think there are 8 or 9 on my TBR for the month. So I got through most of them, but there's a lot of the big ones I didn't get to. I didn't get to the Foundation trilogy. I didn't get to Termination Shock. There's a couple others I didn't get to that will probably push to December at the earliest. I'm trying to map out October, November right now. October is pretty mapped out. November I'm still working on, but my TBR is about 40 books long, so I need to schedule. So hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I'll see you next time.